right, and in the third round, the Eagles trading back from 70 to 73, just 3 spots to address the defense, taking defensive tackle Milton Williams out of Louisiana Tech, a player that we are very excited about. And if you don't know much about him, you will be excited. Fran, I'm going to come to you first. This is a guy you've been talking about on your podcast for a long time, a super athletic player that fans are really going to enjoy watching.
I had no idea who this player was up until he declared for the draft as a junior just after the season. And when you go and watch him, he's a former defensive end who converted to defensive tackle this past season down at Louisiana Tech. Played this year inside at just over 260 pounds, so gave up some ground against the run. But then when you watch him, Amy, he is explosive with a capital EXP. He gets into the backfield in a hurry, very, very disruptive, very heavy hands. Honestly, he reminds me a lot of former Eagles defensive lineman Malik Jackson. When Malik was coming out of Tennessee, he was an outstanding player, a hybrid defensive end, defensive tackle. Now, when you watch Milton Williams last year at defensive tackle, 260 pounds. Since that point, he's put on over 25 pounds, went to his pro day, and ripped it up. Was an outstanding tester. Comparisons to like an Aaron Donald from the testing standpoint, from the athletic profile. This is a really disruptive player. The arrow is pointing up. I am fired up about Milton Williams. This is a guy I'm very high on.
Yeah, and he's not just saying that, okay, because Fran, about 15 minutes ago, I said, who do you think they're going to take with the next pick? Who do you want? He's like, I want Milton Williams.
Yeah.
This is the guy. This is like Fran's Landon Dickerson.
Exactly right.
This is who Fran wanted the Eagles to take 15 minutes ago. So I'm happy for you. I'm happy for us. Look, they need another defensive tackle. I mean, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave are known commodities. They don't really have a third D tackle. Ridgeway's back, but he's been injured a lot. Milton Williams, you mentioned the explosiveness. We all know how important it is now to have interior rushers who can push the pocket. Think Aaron Donald, guys like that, Geno Atkins. They need players like that. Williams has that first step quickness that makes interior offensive linemen like me nervous. You never like going against a guy that's a former D end. They move him inside because you know that guy's got some serious quicks.
Yeah, former high school basketball player as well. Let me give the people some measurables on this guy. You mentioned that explosiveness. 6'3", 285, ran a 4.63 at his pro day. Extremely explosive. Led his team in sacks the last 2 seasons. 4.5 this year, 5.5 the year before. You mentioned a defensive end recruit, a 2-star defensive end recruit that ended up sliding inside. I love, of course, stepping up for his team. And look, now he is a third-round pick. A lot to be excited about and a great story as well. Also, people are saying very scheme versatile with this player. Where do you guys like him with the Eagles? We don't even know what kind of defense we're going to get next year.
Well, I think that's the thing is when you look at Milton Williams, this is a guy who's played up and down the line of scrimmage, and so that's why people will throw out that scheme versatile tag. It's all right, well, we've seen him lined up over tackle as a 5 technique. We've seen him line inside as a 3. He can line up really up and down, and that's, again, going back to Malik Jackson and that comparison, when he was at USC and Tennessee, he was a defensive end. Coming to the NFL, he became a defensive tackle and one of the better defensive tackles in the league. I think that's where Milton Williams is on that level of his trajectory.
Yeah, I think Milton Williams is going to rush from the inside.
Yes.
But they could, if they wanted to, in base, which is when they think that they might run the ball, have him out at the end. He has enough experience playing over an offensive tackle, over a tight end, that he knows how to defeat those blocks. He can do that. So that's very much an option for the Eagles. But I think when he's rushing the passer, they're going to have him inside. They got enough guys outside right now with Brandon Graham and Sweat and Derek Barnett. To me, he's a guy that in year 1 rotates in there with Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, but the upside is sky high. I mean, I'm not aware, Fran, maybe you are, I'm not aware of anybody else over 280 that ran a sub 4.7 40 this.
Not in this class. No, that did not exist. And I think when you look, especially, with last year being that first year playing inside, Ross, you could speak to this. When you are an offense or defensive lineman who's used to playing on the edge, and you have to make that step inside, especially if you're still at 260, for him to do what he did last year, considering the lack of experience, really, really impressive.
It's a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
It really is. Like the blocks that you're taking on, all of the deuce blocks, which is the guard and the tackle, he needed to, number one, get used to those blocks. He will, and he put on 25 pounds, which will make a big difference. But I'm not that worried about him for right now defending the run. He's really going to be there, I think, to just give him a little rotation, a little juice. But I think he really gives them something as an interior rusher.
Well, and as we were waiting to hear the pick, as we were sitting here, we were getting word that Jonathan Gannon seemed very excited in the draft room, and so we figured it was probably defense. So I'm sure we're going to get to hear from the coaches later about how excited they are about this player. But let's now go to Dave Spadaro, the Eagles insider. Dave, the Eagles addressing the defense now with defensive tackle with a very athletic pick here in Milton Williams out of Louisiana Tech. What do you think of the pick?
Well, so tonight is about the interior of the defense and the offensive line. It's about the trenches, and it's about addressing positions where age is accruing. Fletcher Cox going into his 10th season in the National Football League. You have to look to the future here. And the Eagles, I think it's very interesting when we kind of look at the players, not a depth chart, but just players at the defensive tackle position. Every year it seems like the Eagles are loading up, and the Eagles are in great shape going into training camp at defensive tackle, and then injuries have peeled away the depth. And by the end of the season, Fletcher Cox is dragging. So let's take a look here at what the Eagles have at defensive tackle. Ridgeway signs a one-year deal. He's been injured the last 2 seasons. Raekwon Williams, a young player signed after the draft last year, who the Eagles are impressed with. Good young player. He's got some ability, certainly some upside. T.Y. McGill, in his 7th NFL season, has been a journeyman kind of player in the National Football League. And then we expect big things from Javon Hargrave in his 2nd year with Philadelphia. This is a pick right here about 2021 and years to come because, again, Fletcher Cox is not going to play forever. 10 years in the league, a lot of wear and tear, still a great football player. How much longer will he be a good football player with so many snaps under his belt? So to me, this is a move that you look and go, hey, this is a young player we can develop, somebody who's going to come off the line of scrimmage hard, fast, penetrate, be disruptive, and maybe develop into something like a really dominant starter in years to come.
And Dave, talking with a lot of people and looking at some of the projections for him, they had him going in the 2nd round. So how good do you feel if you're an Eagles fan that the Eagles traded down, got another 6th-round pick, and still got a guy at a position of need that a lot of people thought they might take in round 2?
In a little run there, Ross, in the 3rd round among defensive tackles. And it's interesting, I talked to Jonathan Gannon prior to tonight's draft and said, hey, you going to get some help tonight? And he said, I sure hope so. And so he gets some help here with the 2nd pick of the night. A player that they had rated higher than this spot, Howie Roseman feeling like he could make the move, pick up more draft capital for tomorrow. Guys, we have 8 picks in tomorrow's rounds, 4 through 7. I've never had a guy tweeted this out, I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. I think Saturday is the day to drink some coffee because we have a long, long day ahead of us tomorrow. And the Eagles, look, they still have enough where if they want to get back into the 3rd round here, they can do that. Again, this is a player where last night was the flash, okay? Flash and dash. Get a wide receiver, everybody's excited. Tonight, this is how you build your football team. You build your football team in the trenches. You replenish an aging offensive line, an aging defensive line with some young, vibrant talent. And that's what these 2 picks tonight are all about.
Dave, you've had a chance to catch up with new Eagles defensive line coach Tracy Rocker. I know you interviewed him for the Eagles Insider podcast. What does this pick mean for the new look Eagles defensive line? And give us a little bit of insight into what you feel like this line could look like under Rocker's tutelage here moving into 2021.
Friend, I'd love to tell you exactly what kind of scheme we're going to play here, but the Eagles are going to play some cat and mouse, and that's by design. Look, I think we all know that it's going to look a lot like what the Minnesota Vikings have done, what the Indianapolis Colts have done. It's going to be a more aggressive scheme than we've seen in recent years with the emphasis on taking the football away. And that starts with a disruptive defensive line, one that attacks, one that penetrates. I don't think we'll see the wide 9 as we've seen in recent years under Jim Schwartz. So I think this pick right here is something that fits what Tracy Rocker wants. Physical, aggressive, fast off the ball, penetrating, disruptive players. The Eagles hope that that is what they got here in the 3rd round of the draft. And guys, we still have 8 picks left to add more to the defense. And I'm sure that you're going to see a lot more added to Jonathan Gannon's defense in the day ahead.
Well, and Dave, I think this pick, I would argue, has some flash to it as well. A defensive tackle that's that explosive. I have not probably gone a single day in 15 years without a cup of coffee. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how we do tomorrow. But we may catch up with you later tonight. Maybe not. Either way, thanks so much.
Alrighty, guys. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, a long day. That'll be a fun one. Look, I don't know if we're done for the night. We're all going to be on our toes here. One more time before we wrap this up on this player. How high is the ceiling for this player?
Ceiling's very high. This is a guy I feel like absolutely has starting potential in the NFL, and I think when you look at his ability to both defend the run, which, yeah, at 260 playing inside, did he give up some ground on some snaps? Yes, but he competed very, very well. A very violent, competitive player. So now at 290, what is he going to look like? It's going to be a little bit different. But I think when you talk about his ability to get after the quarterback inside and outside and defend the run, ceiling's very high.
You know, he almost reminds me a little bit of last year's third-round pick, Davion Taylor, in the sense that both those guys have rare physical traits for their position, maybe a little raw for different reasons. Obviously, the position move for Milton Williams. I'll just say this. When you talk to defensive line coaches, the number one thing they care about, get off. How quick does the guy get off the ball and get up the field? And Milton Williams has that in spades.
Yeah, and I am not surprised that this staff is very excited about it. All right, if we're picking again tonight, we'll be right back here. If not, we will see you at 11:30 tomorrow morning, 30 minutes before things get started for a long day Saturday here on Eagles Draft Central, presented by Dietz and Watson. Everybody, have a good night, or maybe we'll see you soon.